Today, let's talk about why investing in real estate may be a terrible idea in 2022, depending on your situation. And this is something that is on a lot of people's mind because all over the news, you're seeing people talk about rising inflation, and you're seeing a lot of people talk about the real estate market and whether or not it's going to crash in 2022 like it did in 2008. And that's because across the country right now, we still have very high inflation, the highest we've had in 40 years. And you've probably seen over the last couple of years that real estate prices have just been climbing and climbing and climbing and essentially going sky high in some people's opinion. And a lot of that has been due to the low inventory levels that we've seen across the board in America, but especially in some areas like Utah or Texas, Nevada or Florida. But with interest rates creeping up recently, that's put some pressure on those home prices to come down. And that has a lot of people wondering whether or not the real estate market is just going to crash entirely. So with that being said, here's the 3 reasons why you should really not be buying or investing in real estate in 2022. Now, the first reason that you should not be investing or buying real estate in 2022 is if you're expecting to make $100,000 in 6 months like you may have seen happen in 2021 or 2020. What we're expecting in today's market is we're expecting the rate of appreciation to decrease. We're not necessarily seeing, at least in my market, much of a price adjustment. We still have extremely low inventory levels, even though inventory levels have been rising over the last couple of weeks. Overall, we still are in hot areas under 2 months supply of houses on the market, which is still exceptionally low, and that still puts us in a very strong seller's market. So that's why personally, I'm not expecting real estate prices to actually decrease, although I am expecting the rate of appreciation to decrease over the next couple of months. Meaning we're not going to see, at least I don't think, a 30% year-over-year appreciation in real estate prices like we saw in the last 24 months. It's much more likely that we're going to see somewhere in the range of 4 to 10 to 11% depending on what forecast you look at. So if you think you're going to just go buy that $400,000 property and give it 6 months and it's going to be worth $500,000, that's probably not very likely to happen. Now, the second reason you should not be buying real estate in 2022 is if you do not have a stable income or a stable job. And this one is pretty obvious because if you don't have a reliable source of income, how are you going to plan on paying your mortgage for the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and 20, 30 years. And I see a lot of people talking and asking about the real estate market and saying, well, what happens if the real estate prices crash and my $400,000 house goes down to $350,000 or $300,000 in value? And honestly, my response to that is, why does it matter? Because as long as you have a stable income and you have a stable job, then the price of your home really doesn't matter at all as long as you don't have to move. Now, if you do have to move for a job relocation or because you lost your job or your income, then that's when that does become a problem. But if you have reliable income, you have a reliable job, and you don't see that going away, then even if you were to buy a house at $500,000 right now and that was to drop in value to $450,000, as long as you're in the house for a long enough period of time, that price depreciation in the short term doesn't matter in the long term. Now, the third reason you should not be buying real estate in 2022, which really ties into what I was just saying, is if you're trying to essentially time the market. If you're planning on being in the house for 1 year, maybe even 6 months, maybe 2 or even 3 years, that's really not a very long amount of time to be in a home. In a normal market, when real estate prices are appreciating between 3 to 5%, you have to stay in a house for 3 years just to break even when you sell it after closing costs. Now, I realize that's not been the market that we've been in for the last couple of years. You could buy a house and then sell it in 6 months and make a profit, but that's not by any means normal. So if you're trying to just buy a house, but then in a year from now, you know you have to move out of state or to some other area and you're going to sell the house, know that that is one of the riskiest things to do. You're essentially trying to day trade, but with the real estate market. I always tell my clients, as long as you plan on being in the home for 5 to 7 years or more, then no matter what happens, in most cases, you should be good. because even if you bought a house in 2007 but you didn't sell until 2017, then the real estate crash of 2008 really didn't affect you. So those are my 3 reasons why you should not buy a house in 2022. But also know that I do expect the real estate market to stay strong throughout 2022 and going into 2023. And obviously I don't have a crystal ball, so that's just my opinion based off of all of the data that I've seen. And the quick reason I expect the real estate market to stay strong is because we still have low inventory across the board, and I don't see it creeping up to the point where it's actually going to satisfy demand. And the reason behind that simply is because we've been underbuilding homes, especially starter or entry level homes, for the last decade. So we just don't have enough houses on the market to satisfy demand, and even with these rising interest rates, I don't expect to see enough homes coming on the market that's going to satisfy all that pent up demand. And then lastly, the 2008 crash was caused by the mortgage industry and the lending industry and all of their predatory lending practices, and they were really just propping up the entire real estate market based off of bad loans. And that's not in the situation that we're in right now. We have much more strict lending guidelines. You're not getting ninja loans like you did back in 2008, where you could just walk up to your mortgage broker and say, hey, I want to buy this $1 million house. I make $250,000 a year, but you really don't even have a job and you have a 480 credit score, and that mortgage broker would still write you the loan. That's not happening today. And so for those reasons, I think the real estate market is going to stay strong in 2022. And those are my reasons for why you should not be buying a house in 2022. So let me know your thoughts down below. I would love to see your thoughts and opinions. And as always, thanks for watching.